Hello everyone. This video is for English 104. We are in week 9, and so this video is an overview of that particular week. Let me share my screen. We're going to take a look at our Moodle page. I want to go over some specifics. We are going to be working on your annotated bibliography draft this week. Basically, for the annotated bibliography, you want to come into resources here and look at annotated bibliography reminder. This is created to help you address all the areas that you're going to need on your bibliography when you do the final draft. And what you're going to be doing this week is you're going to be submitting a working draft of it. So there's quite a few details on here for the annotated bibliography. Now, how this class works, it's through scaffolding and building, and that's what we've been doing the last 2 or 3 weeks, scaffolding and building to help you prepare your annotated bibliography. You've been doing research, you've been looking for articles and items both on the internet and in databases, and then you also had an assignment where you had to take some research notes on a couple of sources. So we're putting these all together at this point. And an annotated bibliography, these are items you are going to be using in the essay. So it's not that you just read them and kind of generalized information. These are specific sources you are going to be citing in some way, shape, or form, or integrating into your essay at the end of the semester when you start drafting the actual essay. So for the annotated bibliography, you need to list all sources that you're going to be using in that essay or in your research paper. That's what we're building toward. All of this stuff, the entire semester, is geared toward that topic and your stance and what are you investigating. And then these are going to be either support of the thesis that you've created or maybe addressing counter argument, those type things. So expectations here, let me kind of use my highlighter to show you where I'm at. For each source, so you are going to have a minimum of 6 sources on your annotated bibliography. For every single source, for each of those 6, you are going to have a correct MLA bibliographic citation. So that means when you list it on your annotated bibliography, it must be in the correct format, in the correct order, all of those kinds of things. In other words, where did you get the source from? You also have to have a brief summary of the source. It's roughly 3 to 5 sentences. And when you are summarizing, you need to use the ACTs in there. The ACTs, remember, are you need to name the author, address credibility of that author, make sure you name the title of the source article, and then summarize what the point of the article was. In other words, what's the source about? And then the other part you must have in each one is a clear indication. How are you going to use the information in your essay? How will it directly compare to either another source that you're going to be using, or is it going to support a particular element of your thesis, a particular stance? Is it going to address any of the areas of ethos, pathos, logos, any of those kinds of things? So basically, you have to give a really good idea of how you will be using this source within your essay. Other requirements you need to be aware of for this. It has to be a minimum of 6 credible sources. And here's the other criteria: 3 of those 6. So 3 of the 6 that you use on your annotated bibliography must be from the SMC library databases. So if you don't have 3 already from the databases, you will need to go and find another one in order for it to meet the criteria for this annotated bibliography. 2 of those 3 that you get from the databases must be scholarly and or peer reviewed. You know they're scholarly or peer-reviewed if they have the icon that they're scholarly. And if you don't remember the icon, go back and review those videos or reach out to me and I can tell you. But each of the databases, when you search, you can search scholarly. I mean, that you can put that as one of your criteria. But they also, next to articles, have a little icon. The icon is like a cap, you know, one of those Mortimer caps that you wear at graduation. Some, it's a scroll. So not all databases use the same icon. But that's another indicator that it is a scholarly or peer-reviewed source. So 6 sources have to be 6 different ones from 6 different places on your annotated bibliography. Of those 6, 3 of them have to be found within our SMC library databases. And then of those 3, 2 have to be scholarly or peer reviewed. Now you can have more than that. So for example, if you have 3 sources from databases and all 3 are scholarly, great. If you take all 6 sources and they're all from our database and they're all scholarly, again, that's fine. You can have more, the minimum is what is stated here. And the other limitation on your sources is that you are allowed to have a personal interview as long as it's with a credible source. Remember, it has to be an authority, someone with an expertise in your topic area that you are writing your paper on, and you're only allowed 1. So even if you have more than 1 credible person, more than 1 interview, no, you're only allowed to use 1 within this essay. Don't forget, when you are listing your sources on your Works Cited page, they must be done alphabetically by author's last name. It is highly suspicious if you cannot list the author. And in fact, I would tell you, you better reach out to me, because that is kind of a sign of credibility. If you're finding things in the databases, they're usually incredibly credible and it's not an issue. But outside the database, it becomes a bit of an issue to establish credibility. Make sure you do the CRAP test, that kind of a thing. But on the Works Cited page, you want to list them alphabetically by author's last name. Don't forget, everything on the Works Cited page and on your annotated bibliography is MLA document design. So adhere to all of those items on the annotated bibliography assignment. So when you are alphabetizing by author's last name, you will be doing each of the sources, you'll be having them in the annotated bibliography by author's last name. Don't forget, in each of your summaries, use the ACTs. You want to lead into it, make sure you cite author, address credibility. You may have to do a little research on the author. Make sure you use the title of the sourcing within the summary. Remember, we are practicing all of this stuff. And then your summarization of the article should be a minimum of 3 to 5 sentences. And your summarization really focuses on what the author's purpose or the main point or points, there may be more than one, within the article. Don't forget, it should also address what some of your questions were, because your questions were driving your research. Now, don't be afraid of using fairly compound, complex sentences here. These are not short sentences by any means for this summarization. And then don't forget, the final 1 or 2 sentences within each summary should address how you're going to use it within your essay. Now, I give you some samples here. So a sample entry is, you'll notice right here. So the first thing when you're doing your annotated bibliography, you start each one with the proper citation. So really, if you do these correctly in your annotated bibliography, all you're going to do is copy paste these to create your Works Cited page. But you start with the author's last name, remember, and then correct citing for the source. Include all of the items and make sure you adhere to MLA 8. Again, you can use NightCite, you can use another generator. I'm fine with whatever generator you use. I don't care, as long as you have cited it correctly. And do pay attention. 1, it's double spaced. 2, hanging indent, which means the first line is always left aligned. Everything that belongs with it, in other words, all of the information below it that belongs to the source, is hanging indent, in other words, tabbed in. And this is what formatting should look like. Don't forget, if it's an article, the title of the article, it's in quotes. Titles of books or databases are italicized. So for example, in this particular source, there were 2 authors. The authors are S.L. Thrower and P.J. Bingley. And then the title of the article was Diabetes, Environmental Hazards. It was found in the book, Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism. Actually, it's a journal, the name of the journal. And it tells you the volume, issue, page number. And then it was found in this particular database, Academic Search Premier. And then they list the DOI. So, and then the access date. You need to list all of that. Yes, I do want the access date for when you accessed those particular sources for each one. I become highly suspicious if the access date is the same for all of them. So you shouldn't have the same date for all of them because you didn't discover them all the same day. I don't care if you do DOI or if there is the URL, but if there is a DOI, I do prefer it, but not all sourcing will list the DOI. Now, again, keep in mind, if you are doing night sites, it will prompt you for these boxes and you just fill in the boxes. So after you have correctly provided all the information for the sourcing on this, then you'll notice, okay, now they start their summary of the article. In this article, they use the ACTs in their summary. So here it is. In their scholarly essay, there's the title of the essay. There's the name of the author. So let me highlight this. Title, there's the name of the author, and then the other name of the author. Okay, so they have both. And then here is credibility. Professors of health sciences. So that's addressing credibility. This is why this author, quote unquote, knows what they're talking about, right? So we have author, we have credibility, and we have the title all right there in the first sentence. And then they start summarizing the rest of what the article is about. In other words, what were the main points? And so their summarization goes all the way down to here. And you will notice they actually are even looking at specific items that they're going to address and use within their essay. So the final 2 sentences here, you can see this is how they feel this is valuable, how they're going to be using it within the essay. And they're saying readers will assume lifestyle changes. This article offers examples and connects with readers. So they are talking there, those last 2 sentences are addressing how they're going to use it. Please note, this is a fairly large amount, I guess it's a very long summarization. For many of us, when we think of a paragraph, we think of, oh no, it's a little bit shorter. No, with these, your paragraph summaries will be, those 3 to 5 sentences will be fairly compound, complex sentences. Now you can use more than 3 to 5 sentences, but 3 to 5 sentences is the minimum. And then don't forget 1 or 2 sentences after that on how you're going to be using it within the essay. In other words, how it's valuable to you and what it'll address within your essay. So they get you at your college level paragraph of 7 sentences. And I do want to emphasize, these are not simple sentences. And if you look at the length of this, it's about a half a page, almost 3/4 of a page, starting from the citation down to the end of the summary. The paragraph summary itself, paragraph is probably half a page. So this will look very long, but that's what's happening. So you're going to be doing this for each of your sources. This is one source. Now, interesting enough, this starts with a T. If you have another source written by an article maybe Doug Adams, for example, it starts with an A, that would go before this one. So when you are listing them on your paper, make sure you list them alphabetically by author's last name. So a couple other things I want you to remember that I put in here. And then at the bottom on this is some formatting help. These are just samples of how to cite from different types of sources. Now, NightCite is a great generator and it's accurate, but its output is only as good as input. So if you put something wrong into the generator, it's going to kick it out wrong at you. So you do have to make sure you put the right things in the right boxes. So it's really important to understand your sourcing, where you're getting it from. If you're getting it from a database, that's not original sourcing, it's secondary sourcing, so you got to make sure you name the database. And many things have more than one author. So if it's one author, you know, it's easy peasy. If it's two authors, please do note the first one you list is last name first, but when you do the second one, you just do it the regular name. For example, Doris Michael and Louis Erdrich. You notice the second one, they just put in the correct order, first name, then last name. When you have three or more authors, I'm sure you all know this by now, you don't have to list them all. You only list the first one, last name first, etc. And then you can do et al., which is the abbreviation that says and more. I think it's Greek for and more, okay? Upon occasion, you will have no author or editor. So here are examples that you can do to cite from those. And then if you have an article from a print journal, that means you had it in print. If you have articles accessed through a database, for most of us, you're going to have most of them this format here. So make sure that you are following the format, and when it comes out that it is in this order, and do pay attention to what items are in quotations. So for example, titles of articles are always in quotations, but the name of the periodical, the name of the magazine, or the name of the book that it came from in the database is italicized, as well as the name of the database itself. That's also italicized. You always have to list a DOI or a URL, and then you always have to tell me the access day, month, and year in the correct format. So this is the one you'll probably be using most. However, I am well aware you will have outside sources from the databases. Not everyone gets all of their sources from the databases. So that's why I've listed examples of the format depending on what type of sourcing you are using, okay? So that is what this particular annotated bibliography is all about. So you are working on a draft of that. I hope I have been helpful in explaining this particular assignment and the samples associated with it. As always, reach out to me for any questions or concerns. I'm happy to help you.